Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to my friend, the Ranking Member Engel, and to Chairman Royce for your efforts. Sincere thanks to my dear friend, Chairman Eliana Ross-Lehtinen, for her partnership on this effort, her commitment, her unyielding commitment to seeing that there is justice. She's been a tireless advocate for Holocaust survivors and the entire community. I also want to thank our Florida colleagues, Senator Bill Nelson and Senator Collins, for spearheading this effort in the Senate. We share a deep commitment to ensuring that every survivor can live out his or her life with dignity. It's a commitment that was inspired each and every day by those in our own communities. But for me, especially, it was a commitment inspired every day by our great friend and Holocaust survivor, my constituent, Jack Rubin. Jack survived Auschwitz and 3 other death camps before he was liberated at age 16. He was the only member of his family to survive. For decades, Jack fought for the needs of the survivor community. He fought for the right to seek justice. He was a voice for so many of those who had no one to speak to them. He traveled to Washington, D.C. many times at his own expense, well into his 80s. He testified in front of Congress. For me, Jack was a friend and a mentor. He was a cheerleader. He was an eternal optimist. He believed that it wasn't too late, it was never too late, to make a real difference in the lives who had suffered history's greatest tragedy. And when the House version of this resolution passed back in June, Jack was watching at his home in Boynton Beach, Florida. When I returned to my office from speaking on the floor, I had a message from Jack telling me of the tears in his eyes as he watched the House vote on it, and that it was the best birthday present that he could have asked for. Jack Rubin passed away in July, just days before the Senate passed this resolution. His wife Shirley, his children, and especially his grandchildren, understood the commitment that he made throughout his lifetime to help those in need, especially in the survivor community. And while significant progress has been made on survivor care, Jack did not, unfortunately, live to see the day when every Holocaust survivor has his or her medical and mental health care needs met. So we continue this fight. We will press on, and passing this resolution today is the first step in continuing the legacy of our friend Jack Rubin. When the House passed a version of this resolution in June, we were awaiting the results of a special round of negotiations between the German government and the Claims Conference. In December 2015, the government of Germany acknowledged the significant gap in funding for survivor care. As a result, Germany agreed to a new high-level working group that would conduct additional negotiations aimed to close the gap for funding of home care needs. In an effort to make clear the severity of the needs and the critical importance of these negotiations, Chairman Ross-Lehtinen and I introduced the House companion to this resolution. The introduction and passage of that resolution, which urged the German government to fulfill its moral and financial obligations to victims of the Holocaust, sent a very clear message to our German friends that the U.S. Congress was watching these negotiations. As we watched, a significant increase in home care funding was announced for 2016 and 2017, and a new agreement reached for 2018. Arbitrary caps placed on the number of home care hours allowed were also lifted. This is a commendable step forward, but there are still so many unmet needs. I'm deeply appreciative of the decades-long commitment of the German government to caring for survivors. I've spoken directly to Chancellor Merkel about this commitment, and I know that it is personal for her. And I want our German friends to understand that this isn't about getting to a specific dollar figure. It's about continuing to meet all the needs for a very small and a very fragile part of the population that is rapidly aging. This is the last chance to make sure that those who suffered through the most horrific crimes against humanity are cared for. Survivors are in their 80s, their 90s, and into their hundreds. There's a finite amount of time left. This is not an indefinite commitment on the part of Germany. The resolution before us today continues to support the goal of ensuring that all Holocaust victims in the United States and around the world are able to live with dignity and comfort and security in their remaining years. No amount of money can ever erase the tragedies of the past. No amount of money is ever a substitute for justice. But the day-to-day suffering of this very vulnerable population can be eased. The needs of elderly survivors are exacerbated by their physical and mental experiences during the Holocaust. Leaving their own homes for institutionalized care is often not an option. The tragic loss of many family members at the hands of the Nazis means that many survivors rely on social services for meal delivery, rides to doctor's appointments. These are the most basic of human needs, and they deserve to have them met. I want to thank my friend, Chairman Ross-Leighton, and I want to thank Ranking Member Engel and Chairman Royce for their support, and Senator Nelson and Senator Collins for their efforts in the Senate. I want to urge my colleagues to join us in urging Germany to ensure basic dignity and comfort for survivors. When you look into the eyes of survivors in my district, as I do quite often, they worry about others. They say never again. But we should worry about them. For their remaining time on this earth, they deserve peace through living out their lives with dignity. Germany can help make sure that they do. Jack Rubin knew and fought for that literally until his last breath, and this resolution commits Congress to that fight for dignity. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.